Een klein mirakel, dat is wat je nu te zien krijgt. Midden in het drukke Porto Novo, de hoofdstad van Benin in West-Afrika, is er een soort Hof van Eden ontstaan. Het begon allemaal zo'n 20 jaar geleden op een paar braakliggende gronden. Nu staat dit project aan de top van het gebruik van vernieuwende, duurzame landbouwtechnieken en krijgt jaarlijks meer dan 5000 stagiaires en bezoekers over de vloer. Eén wel heel markante bezoeker in juni 2010 was Ban Ki-moon, de secretaris-generaal van de Verenigde Naties. Nadat hij Songhai, want zo heet het centrum, had bezocht, verklaarde hij:
This is the way you achieve sustainable development.
En dit alles is het werk van slechts één man, de Dominicaan Godfrey Nzamujo.
I was born in Nigeria and then I started my education in Nigeria, and later on I was sent to the United States because of the particular orientation I wanted to get.
And who were your parents?
My parents were very strong Catholics, very large family that were involved in the medical field and also real estate, that understood the value of education, and they wanted as much as possible for the children to be equipped, to have the capacity to really be on the driver's seat through education.
So you got a lot from your parents in getting a good education, so you wanted to study.
Yes, because right from the beginning, my father and my mother told us that the only way really to succeed is to equip yourself intellectually, morally, and spiritually. Then you can survive in any situation. He said, remove your name, any kind of thing, your background, any kind of thing. If you have the basic human capacity, then you can blossom anywhere at all.
And you took that in?
I took it very, very seriously because my father told me, son, if you've made all your plans and everything worked as you planned, you're not yet a man. But if you make all your plans, nothing worked, and you're able to rebound because of what you've accumulated, to overcome any obstacle, then you become a man. That is what I want you to be, a person who can survive anywhere because he has something inside of him. That non-material force is what is most important in life. In my region, in my ethnic group, every child, every person gets his name from the situation of your birth. That time, my grandfather was in charge of land distribution. People wanted him to distribute the land per head, per capita, because we favor his own people. He refused. He wanted to distribute it per family so that many people will get an opportunity, justice. His own people didn't like it because it didn't favor him, but he went ahead and did it against all pressure, and he was very happy. And then I was born at that particular time, and to express himself, he said his name is the Nzamujo, meaning the hero cannot be intimidated. The hero knows no fear. To tell the people, look, I am conscious of it. And every time they reminded me of the meaning of my name, never let go. You must never be intimidated. Get yourself ready. Don't give up anything. My grandmother never calls me Godfrey, any other thing. He yells Nzamujo, letting me know my name, my mission, because in my home, your name is your mission, is your identity. And therefore, I wanted to carry that. That's again why to answer to my name, my mission, I had to force myself, do a lot of things, to study different type of things so that I'll be ready for this mission.
What are your most beautiful childhood memories?
Oh my goodness, it's around Christmas. It's around Christmas time when I was very young, coming from a Christian community. That time, the Christmas period in my home is not with a small family, but age group of people. So for months we prepare for that. We contribute money, each pocket money, we don't spend it. We put it in a case, preparing ourselves. We buy our own rice, buy kind of things, and the boys and the girls, we cook. The table outside, we make all this type of thing, and music. It is the most beautiful thing because it builds the community. We are really very, very happy when we are doing it. We buy how to make tomatoes, how to do a lot of things. And it's just a wonderful opportunity that young people are a little bit independent. They can do the things they want to do. And then from there, we grew up from there. No matter where we are now, in England, in America, all the members of the age group, we come together, we are involved in home projects because those years are formative years that brought us together, building the community. Because in my tradition, you're not alone. You are your society. The society builds you, you build your society. We brought up in a very joyful community that my father used to, don't look at the negative things.
Yeah, but it's a poor country too.
It's a poor country, but poor physically, poor economically. I'm telling you,
yes.
I lived in America, I lived in Africa. The quality of life, you know, because what life is the value. In my culture, they taught us to, honor, service, to gain. And that's what brings you joy. You know, I am happy. Let me tell you, when I came back to Benin, very poor country. I was going to a project. The road was very, very bad. We stopped on the road. We went to a family, very poor family. They know the work we're doing. The best bed in the house, they gave it to me in the house as a sign of solidarity sign. But I'm telling you, I had the best bed in the house, but I still couldn't sleep. But when I came out, the young children who were around in the bed, because they know the type of work, I came out, they were sleeping so peacefully. And I told myself, an American-born, grown-up boy is not as happy as these young people. So it's not the material things that really, these boys were so happy they were sleeping peacefully. While me being used to more comfort in America, I had to get the right thing to really, come back to that type of thing. Yeah.
Nevertheless, there are a lot of Africans who want to come to Europe. Why?
It is really, yes, there's no problem coming to Europe to equip yourself. I did it, I went to America. But the question is, you come to Europe to equip yourself, to go back to do. The problem I have and my anger today, you're talking about my anger. My anger today is the thousands of Africans, the best we have, who are educated, who have the brains to come to Europe. They're the best we have. They come here instead of going back to build their nation. They stay here. That is what makes me mad. You know, I can't understand why we abandon our own home just to live a comfortable life. This, if you ask me what makes me angry today, it is basically that situation that people leave their homes where they should be. And this is what I'm trying to promote. This is one of the things we're doing at Songhai, to create this enabling environment, to let Africans know that something to be done. That Africa is an open field of invention, of creativity, of something exciting. A lot could be done.
Yes, I believe you, but you know, if Africa is so joyful as you have just described, then, well, why don't Africans go back to their joyful society? Why do they prefer the stressful European society?
That's the value system, again, because the world is getting materialistic. I was lucky my parents gave me this. I could have been the same thing. My parents taught me, and again, from my own Dominican type of thing, it's a question of value system. And I'm telling you about Songhai, we're looking at three things: the technical education, practical work, and the heart, the value system is critical. Because why are you working? We're working for something. It's a question of the human value, to give back. Tell me, what makes man holy, unholy, clean, unclean, is not what he takes or she takes, but what comes out of him. This is the value that will serve the world, not just Africans, throughout the world. We need to change the value system. The value system is too materialistic, it's destructive, not just to Africa, to Europe and America. And I really believe in it. Peace of the Lord is always with you. And also with you. Let's now share with each other the sign of our peace. Development is human uplifting. It's a quality of life. And we've forgotten the spiritual dimension which guides us. You see, we've made a mistake in this world today. We think development is economics, is money. We're never satisfied. So we're really looking for human fulfillment. Who you are, finding yourself. Everybody's talking about it. That depth dimension is extremely important for us today. So my day doesn't start just with the Mass. I've already started my meditation, my readings, preparing for this. Long before 5 o'clock, I'm up already, preparing for this. Now, this is a continuation where everybody comes together to read the gospel, to prepare us to launch. As I said, it is that depth dimension, the spiritual dimension is very, very important. I don't mean a religion. Religion could lead to spirituality, you know, but not all religion can lead to spirituality. What we're looking for in religion is spirituality. That inner man, inner woman, that is in control of himself, that is linked with his whole energy, that unleashing the human energy is very, very important. And I found that it has helped me here to get that, because, you know, we're swimming against the current. Development is doing new things, is swimming against the current, asking people to do what. If they don't find why, if they don't have that depth dimension, why they're doing it, the finality, the whole picture, they just become, you know, machines. So coming here, we understand the big picture, and then we are linked with that energy, that mission. So it's in Mass, in our spirituality, that we find out our mission, why we are doing our sort of things, and it mobilizes us. Because when you know why you're doing something, you're mobilized. So that's why I really encourage them to start there with high spirituality. Discipline themselves. Spiritual discipline is very, very important.
Why did you become a Dominican priest?
It's again, in the beginning I wasn't very much interested in the church. You know, I was a very big militant over there. But some of my teachers were Dominicans. And again, I was studying all around to see what responds to my own type of thing. And I started flirting around with different orders, the Jesuits and the Dominicans. And what really brought me to the Dominicans is from St. Dominic himself, you know. The St. Dominic trying to transform himself, trying to rearrange himself to meet the demands of his people. He saw the crisis around his time and said, look, he's from a rich family kind of thing. And he decided to rearrange himself, to change his lifestyle, to empty himself so that he will be in a position to help over there. This was very, very important to me growing up, coming from Africa and America, preoccupied with that type of thing. So that struck me that in order to change people's life, you have to come to their level, be embedded in their reality, but not just be buried there, but you must come from a source. Once St. Dominic saw his book, for example, he was ready to sell his book over there. And that time, book was very important. That was a sign of nobility, sign of aristocracy. You know, he was ready to give up anything, because in my proverb, they said, if you see what is bigger than the farm, you sell your barn. You know, you like in the Bible, you know, a person he saw the wealth in the field, he sold everything he has to really, that was, you know, kind of thing. And then later on again, St. Thomas Aquinas, because as a scientist today, St. Thomas Aquinas was a person who was the actuality, who was a person who combined knowledge was liberating. You get knowledge to be free, and knowledge everywhere, whether sciences or theology, was element of liberation. That was key to my choice of the Dominican. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Albert the Great is my special thing. They use the sciences to equip man to become free, because the gospel is freedom. But I don't like the idea of empty religiosity, small science, be it religion, be it theology, is not sufficient equipment for a man. So the Dominicans combined all the present science, Aristotelian science there, the best. They use it as a service to man.
How did you get to the United States to study?
It was, I had a very good grades to the States, and there was a scholarship, you know. I was in my class and this type of thing. And I was a Dominican then already. I'm studying, and I was doing theology, engineering, and the sciences at the same time.
Both?
All of them. One day I did my exam in Christology in the morning, and the evening I did an exam in electro-optical devices. It was all apart. For people it was different, but for me it is the same thing.
Why is it not different for you?
It is, it's me doing it, you know. To me, reality is not engineering, science. The reality is about man, about woman, about the human drama. Those are elements of a big whole. These are, I call them domain sciences. But then experiential sciences is in me, in the human drama, in the community. All those things must coalesce together to solve man's problem, whether in the culture, whether in philosophy, whether in engineering. If you don't bring them together, you're going to lead man in a lopsided way. So that's why at Songhai we are creating a cream of transversal, polyvalent young men and women who are going to look at reality from many angles. And the result of it will be very, very beautiful today.
Where does the name Songhai come from?
Well, again, I wanted to show that the development must be based on culture, on the value. The Songhai came from a very strong African civilization that existed between the 14th and 16th century. It was so sophisticated that it created the sciences like the digital system, Bestre, which people don't know about today. The Songhai Empire was extremely on the level of social integration, small ethnic groups that grew into a big empire because they knew how to dialogue.
Where was it situated in Africa?
It is the northern Nigeria, northern Togo, northern Ghana, northern Benin, and all of Mali and Niger. A lot of it is the Songhai people. That, if good mathematics, one of the emperors of Songhai was going to Egypt. He was carrying so much wealth. When he gave that disturbed the world economy for months. And people don't know that today. That Africa was weighing yesterday. We've lost it. But we can still pick it up. So I took the name Songhai to tell Africans that, look, you belong to yesterday. It was happening in Africa yesterday. We could still have our own renaissance today. We can have it.
Why did it stop?
It was invaded by the Muslim Moors from Morocco. That was the first attack. Because the people of Songhai was based on dialogue, was based on solidarity, was based on sciences. But these people came with knives and guns and fundamentalism. They were going to dip the Bible in the Atlantic Ocean. So again, they divided the empire. Some people were Islamites, and some people were converted, and all that crisis started. It broke up into modern Mali, into Mandinka Empire, into Hausa Fulani Empire, into the Yoruba. Some of those started breaking up, and then the slave trade came, and then the colonialism came, and then we went into the dark ages of Africa, as you had in Europe today. This is the place that this project started. 1 hectare of land. Nothing was here. It was a rotten place, a dump site, nothing. The only thing that existed when I was here was this tree, because it's a medicinal plant. They were using it now. That's the only thing they did not cut. Rotten land, flooded land, we started about 25 years ago. During the crisis, the big droughts, you know, you had the Ethiopian crisis where we have all the drought. I was teaching in the university then of California, in my lab in the university, and I was looking at these pictures of these young Africans with big stomach. In my lab, one of the biggest universities in the world, University of California, and I was saying, okay, this is my continent of origin. What does it mean to be a priest today, an engineer today, a scientist today, before this crisis? So that was my vocation crisis. How can I, a Dominican priest, an engineer, a scientist, an African, respond to this? My father was alive then. I talked with my father to come back to Africa to understand what was going on. This is how this project started. Then I went back to Africa. I came back to Africa, went through Nigeria, part of my origin, Liberia, Ethiopia, Kenya, and South Africa. When I came back, I was angry, I was mad. Why? Because I saw that Africa was very, very rich, extremely rich. Why a continent that's so rich is also very, very poor? The answer is we've been doing the wrong thing. The wrong economic equation was written for Africa, and Africa has followed the wrong path. Therefore, this Songhai project started in looking at ourselves. What are we? And how can we develop the internal forces, the moral, intellectual, spiritual forces to create wealth? By wealth, I mean spiritual wealth, social wealth, economic wealth, and environmental wealth that correspond to the needs of Africa. This is how Songhai was born. Can Africans and their friends from Europe and America work together to create a new African society where the citizens can create the resources, the goods and services that can answer, can strike an answering chord to the problems of Africa today? This is what Songhai is, a project of a new African society where the citizens can now unleash new forces. The government has given us that because it was dirty. This place used to be like that one now, we cleaned it up. The government has given us that area again. This was the worst part of Porto Novo, but now is the most beautiful part. It was slum, poubelle. People were throwing things around it. So again, it's a way of telling Africans, look, let's look at ourselves differently. Look at Africa as an opportunity set and develop the human capacity, the discipline, the knowledge and the skill to turn those things into, look at mosquito. Talking about malaria, we're using mosquito to feed our fish. We are producing tons of insect fly larvae, house fly. Instead of being a problem, we are turning it to an advantage to grow our fish. Again, this is a new way of thinking, a new radical way of thinking that corresponds to nature, that can really help us in the sea. Those things will make to grow the bacteria and the plankton where the fish will come and eat. So it's producing the natural fish food for the fish. This is what the Beninese were doing centuries ago. We've copied it, we've modified it, call it akaja. We're now using it to grow fish. So that will form all the algae, all of that, and the fish will come and eat in here and grow it, and harvesting all the nutrients. So this is technology developed by Beninese centuries ago. So we're taking it now, because you see, they did it, they don't know why they were doing it. They just discovered that, oh, fish are coming over there and growing. But we now know it's because of the plankton forming, the algae forming, and is the primary food for tilapia. So that's why we're doing all sorts of things. So we're now going to go to the Sheraton Hotel for the flies. The famous Songhai Sheraton Hotel. All the fish and the meat from the kitchen, instead of throwing them away, we put them here, the flies walk on them. So, and then they eat them and they produce the larvae. The maggots take away dead things, remove them, and redigest them and put enzymes there. So like most of the time, if I have a wound here, the maggot will not eat good flesh. They always remove the fat, the dead, the decaying one. This is its value. So it can help you to clean the wound, but at the same time, they're injecting some kind of, antibiotics and some kind of enzymes there over there to be healing. So when they clean it up, remove all the dead tissue that are purifying, getting all the bad thing, the fresh tissue are now free to develop and to heal back again. So people use it to really kill with extraordinary. So that is what they're doing here. They're taking, because the meat is now dead, they're using it to promise them. So again, we also have a project of selling maggots. This larvae is 60% protein, all the amino acids. This is what we're using to set our fish. This is a live feed here. Now come and see. Come and see what is going on. Do you smell much? No, because the bacteria, the flies are working to capture all that. That's why it's not smelling. This is biomimicry. We are looking at nature and developing a technique in accordance. You see? So all the flies are coming here doing their work freely. So this is it. And you see how the fish like that one? It is possible for us to really create wealth and fight poverty effectively. Let's go. Look at what could be done. Can build a house? Yeah, easily. Modern technology. Remember green rural cities. No, little cement or no cement at all. Look at what is happening. That's good. See? From all the clay. We have all these things, but because we're in a logic of poverty, we're not able to create wealth. So Songhai is there to reverse it. So all these young people are training to develop that capacity, the reflex, and the techniques, so that they can use what God has given us. This is an opportunity to create the goods and services. So we must not underestimate that this is the center of development. Poverty is not a disease. Is the incapacity of a people, or a group, or a man, or a woman, to unleash the forces, to harness what God has given them, to create wealth. And this is what these young people now, we're changing their mentality. They now know they can do it. The development model has caused more trouble because people have become passive consumers, begging instead of developing. Each time you give people something like that, you are killing them. You are telling them they're incapable. But as Songhai, we're reversing it. Let's go ahead. Ça va là-bas?
What was your impression when Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, visited Songhai?
When it was first of all announced that he saw the video of Songhai, he wanted to see it. I said, oh, finally. You know, because we wanted to start something on the ground, not looking for publicity for more than 20 years to build it up instead of just talking about it. So when eventually this news came to him and he had the patience to watch it, he said, look, I'm coming to see this type of thing. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs told him, look, Ban Ki-moon is coming to Songhai, get ready, are you ready? I said, it's kind. And announced it at Songhai, and nobody believed it. You know, but it was for them a challenge, and so what we're doing, people know about it now.
He was impressed, Ban Ki-moon.
He came, not only, it was his birthday. So the whole Songhai community designed a special music for him. He was moving, everybody was moving, the government officials, it was so strong. And then we showed him the thing that was a pet for, he didn't want to go. It was so good, and the speech they wrote for him, preparing from the internet, he put it aside. All he saw on the paper, from him totally. And throughout that visit in Benin, the parliament, with the president, he said, you have something here going on. And he said he was going to do everything to get other agencies working together to spread that news around.
These should be the examples of many people in Africa. And I'm going to use my visit to Songhai as a strong message to many people in the world, particularly in developing world, to follow this very creative, innovative system. This is the way you achieve sustainable development.
We were happy that a person of that level came to see what we are doing. And not only seeing it, was so impressed, was so touched by it, and he couldn't, hide his feelings, and showed it. Some of his assistants said, look, this is not a man with emotion. If he said it, it has touched him. So we are very, very happy that he came, and he mingled with us. He visited everywhere. He saw it with the energy, production of our own energy, the animals, the crops, quality, the product type of thing. He said, I never thought I would see this type of thing. We will change the world when we start believing and acquiring the capacity and dare to do it. This is what made the difference between that deadline and the place now that the United Nations Secretary General will come and say, this is the way. It is because we invested our human capacity there. We invested friendship over there. We attracted a lot of other people, not just me. We have a lot of my friends who believed in it, who said, okay, I'm going to join with you. I made the young people believe that this is the way here. So it is a question of leadership. It's a question of creating a culture of success. We started small. Oh, it's possible. It's possible. Again, it's possible. We didn't start big. It's kind of a pedagogy. It's a kind of training. Start small. It works. Okay, then. And they started believing in themselves. I see young people who failed the traditional, when they start hatching fish, but I can do it. Yes, I can do it. When they start believing in themselves, that they can do it. But now, people are doing it for Africa, which is what I don't like.
But you don't like?
I don't like people doing it for other people. If you feed a man, give him fish, you feed him tomorrow. But if you teach him how to fish, he's taking care of himself. So it's just unleashing the human capacity is the most beautiful gift you can give to any man. And when I see these young boys and girls who are proud of themselves because they are doing it themselves, and the Secretary General saw their pride. Nobody gave it to them. They worked hard. People will help them, but they didn't do it for them. Then you can see miracles. In my book I wrote, called Quand l'Afrique relève la tête, I gave an example of the multiplication of the loaves. It is, Christ was in a desert, in a village, preaching to the thousands. There was only 2 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The disciples, like churchmen, they sent them away, and it's for us and Christ. He said, no, you feed them. They said, there's nothing here. He said, you feed them. The meaning of that is that poverty is apparent. Poverty is the incapacity of the human society to unleash new forces. He said, get them together. Organizing the people, the miracle happens. When you get people starting from what they have, from 2 loaves of bread and from fish, and getting organized, the energy comes out. This is what I learned from St. Dominic, because it's a gospel of St. Matthew. The multiplication of the lives is a human energy thing. If you get people together, start from what they have, give yourself generously to them, and then they start believing in themselves and they work together. From 2 loaves of fish, they fed thousands, still remaining. And he said, collect them again. So we're also recycling. So again, that's when I preach that gospel. I tell them, it is a socio-economic piece of the gospel telling you that poverty is when we are incapable of seeing the opportunity sets around us and unleashing the human energy to harness them and pull them back. Then we are poor. But we become rich when we've developed those capacities, use our brains and think, and this is what is happening at Songhai today.
You must have negative experiences at Songhai too.
Yes.
Can you tell us about them?
Yes, the negative aspect at Songhai is the question of projects and people working in development. They forget why they are there. Most of the problems in development is the people working in it. They forget that they are given the resources to change the lives of people, but it becomes their own ego trip, you know. They spend so much money on themselves, on conferences, on travels, and Songhai stood against that. And we had a lot of difficulties from people who, because we don't dance their dance, we said this is not the way to do it, because Songhai created a culture, a question of accountability. Is if you're given 1 penny, you not just show what you bought with it, you have a moral obligation to multiply that one here.
Just like in the Bible.
In the Bible. You know, I tell him in the Bible, the person that was given and gave it back was punished. He didn't steal it. He was punished because he did not multiply it. He did not use it correctly. Imagine what will happen to African leaders and those in development stealing and embezzlement. So this is again, at Songhai, we want to show that it doesn't belong to us, any resource, any money. It belongs to the community, and we have a moral obligation to work hard to multiply it so that it can affect other people. You know,
yes, but aren't you fighting a lost fight? I mean, fight against the lack of responsibility. Hasn't that made Africa poor?
This question, I'm going to come back, it's not just in Africa. We see this everywhere, in Europe, here, everywhere. But, okay, because we're in Africa, we talk about it here. It's true. But again, there's another Africa. There are many communities, which you don't know, that are working for that do not accept mediocrity. That's why we're happy the UN Secretary General came to see another Africa that is working, that is making, and not just me, and it's growing, it is blossoming.
Yes.
So this is a sign of hope, instead of just looking at what is not working.
Yes.
Our thing is look at what is working, reinforce it, and make it the order of the day.
Yes. Don't you feel sad when Africa is referred to in Europe as the lost continent?
Yes, I feel bad, I feel sad, and what can I do?
Isn't Europe right? Isn't Africa lost?
No, I don't think it's lost. You see, this is the media. The media is wrong. And I say it. You people are wrong. Because they say one thing. They don't take the time to see the germ. Look at, if you went to Europe yesterday, how many years ago, 50 years ago, how was it? How many millions of people were killed? Would you say Europe was lost? Okay, look at the war in Ireland. Look at in Sarajevo. Look at in Italy. Look at all sort of them. Look at the crisis over there. Wouldn't say. When a child, a woman, is in labor and crying, and the child is difficult to come out, do you say that is a failure? No, I wouldn't say it's a failure. We have to respect the period of gestation. I think that's the mistake Europe makes. They take sample according to the type of thing Africa has lost, and I think it's not good.
The news that reaches us from Africa is often awful. I mean, the violence, rape of women, the cruelty that is committed in Congo.
There's more cruelty, there's more rape in New York, in London, in Paris, than the street of Lagos. But why do you? There's more rape, pedophilia, everywhere in Europe and America than in Africa. But when it comes to Africa, it's magnified. So this is my problem with the Western media. They don't, how many Western media has come to projects like Songhai, many of them, and I'm appealing to them. Because it's not, Africa is not just AIDS and all sort of thing. That's why in my address to the United Nations General Secretary, I tell them, we are privileged that you've judged, you see the work we are doing, and I think it's important. And there are many lights everywhere lighting in Africa. The problem is the camera doesn't go there.
Who is God to you?
You know, this again why I don't like the domestic type, you don't define God. I remember in theology classes, they wanted to prove the existence of God. I was the only person that didn't clap. I said, if that's God, you proved it, that God is not my God. God is something you can't, the time you start defining God, you've lost him. It is so self-evident. It is a part of you. It is, you know, in my culture, it's called chuku. It is within you. It is not outside. It's something that I, from my own traditional theology of our people, you don't define God. It's something so evident to you that makes you that kind of thing. The moment you start proving the existence of God is the time you've lost him.
Do you celebrate Eucharist differently than in Europe?
A little bit differently. When you come to Benin, you come to God and Mass, you will like it, it rocks. We will bring out our joy. People enjoy coming there, and because it strikes an answering chord to their question of what is tomorrow. You see, I think the thing, what type of world do you want to build tomorrow? What type of world are we constructing tomorrow? And what am I going to do to bring it about? So this is the question today.
Still got a few questions about living together in Songhai with Muslims and Christians.
Yes.
I mean, I guess they're both there.
Yes.
How does it work?
Again, this experiment, we hear about Muslims fighting kind of thing, but how do they do it? You know, I studied Islam myself to understand how to do it. And we brought them all together. As I explained to them, what is the real enemy? It is ignorance. It is poverty. Not you, not me, not that of thing. So I made them understand who the real enemy is. And it's a cake to make, not a cake to eat. You see, when you see, we call it entitlement. This is for me, entitlement, this is for me, then that's war. We wouldn't have enough things. But we reversed it. We said, Africa, we're building a new African society where we need all sons and daughters bringing their own value system.
Yes, but do fundamental Muslims buy that? That it's
Most
ignorance?
of them do not. For example,
Do not.
Do not. But we're breaking them down.
How?
How? For example, during the Muslim Ramadan, I fast with them. We have meetings with them. I meet them over there. And they are surprised I come to them to discuss. And in the beginning, they are very, very, but I greet them in Arabic, say some prayers with them, and they're all surprised. And then they start looking at me differently. And then, you know, like there's one of the fundamentals close to us, 5 o'clock in the morning, whoa. And I went to them, and I told them, because I studied Islam, I said, look, Prophet Muhammad would not do it this way. Kind of things.
We not do the prayer that loud.
That loud, the kind of thing, and that this mosque is not not supposed to hear the other one. He was surprised that I knew those things. The following week, he turned it down, and then we started becoming friends over there, and then we started dialoguing.
What is your most moving experience on a spiritual level?
My most moving experience on the spiritual level.
Let's say, put it differently, an experience that has changed your life.
It's when my mother died a few years ago. The experience of being lost. I was close to my mother because I was a premature child. All the doctor says that my mother was going to die if he insisted in giving birth to me. But this woman didn't believe in it. She ran away the day she was going to fall for surgery. And I was born prematurely. So the bond was there. And I wasn't there when my mother died. But I had a very strong feeling. And I called. I knew. My brothers, I said, look, something is wrong. So there's nothing, I haven't got any. I said, please call back home. Within hours, it came back. And he was talking to me over there. That was a strong bond. And I went back home. And where she was lying, I stood there. I never cried that much. I closed the door. And even though she was dead, I had a very strong with him. And each time I'm tired and I come back to that experience, I feel my mother is still present. Because it's her courage that I exist today. It is her toughness. She was ready to sacrifice her life. She has already 5 children. She could have said, okay, I've already 5 children. So that bonded me. I cried. And anytime I have problems, that sin comes back to me. And it's a source of courage. Because I know, when talking about God today, it is that connectedness there with my mother. And when I was trying to start this project, nobody believed in it. He said, my son, go. I see it in your face. Go, you'll succeed. He succeeded. And it was very, 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 very clear to me that that bonding was there and it never left. And my priesthood was because of that. Because it showed me love. That you can give yourself for other people. So when talking about spiritual experience, it's not something you prove, is not intellectual, it's the heart. It is that one over there. So for me, my mother is the source of my, if I'm trying to do something for other people today, because she sacrificed her life for me, and I think it's not for nothing. It is that I can also give that, and that's what I share with other people.
When you were with her, when she was already dead, did you still say anything to her?
I said, but not with words. I communicated. I went through all the things we lived together, because whenever I came to her, I go to her room, we sit down, we pray the rosary together. There's a rosary I gave her when I was dead. She still has it today. She died. And it really touched me. So I didn't have to talk to her, to relate to her. It was life. And up till now, it's still there for me. I'm sorry. So that was it. I'm sorry. It's
very moving. It's a very beautiful experience.
Yeah. So that is one, and so that's when people talk about proving God, proving relationship. It's something you feel. It's something you do. You have to dare it. This is the human quality we are losing everywhere. We have reduced life to proofs to this type of thing. You can prove to your wife, to your husband, or to your child that you love them. If you start proving it, then it becomes artificial, you know. And I think it's the same thing in relationship, you know, with God, first of all. And it's something we feel, that depth dimension, that's what I call the spiritual level of type of thing. It's not religious, it's spiritual, and it's the most important thing human beings have today. Voilà.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.